The first light spread over my fields like fire across dry straw. The rooster, Major Cluck, crowed at the horizon as though he owned the sun. The old wind chime made of bent spoons rattled a nervous rhythm above the porch. I sat in my chair with a quilt over my knees and a chipped mug of coffee in my hands, steam curling into the cold dawn. The barn loomed red and guilty against the light, its door yawning wide, spilling the ghosts of hay and diesel into the air. The whole place smelled like rain and bread, like memory. Then the sirens came. First one, then three, then a whole chorus that tore the morning apart. Blue lights pulsed against the walnut trees, engines growled down my gravel lane, rocks exploding under their tires, chickens scattered in panic, feathers spinning like confetti. The goat, Internet, froze mid-chew, eyes blank as if buffering. I didn't move. I only raised one eyebrow, the way you do when trouble shows up early. Across from me, Sheriff Dan sat on the porch, boots propped, hat tilted low. He sipped his coffee slow, steady, as if the sirens were nothing but wind in the trees. Or maybe we're late, he murmured, clinking his mug against mine. Gravel sprayed. Doors slammed. The first officer tried to stride toward us, but Locust, the porch cat, twined around his ankles. His march turned into a stumbling dance. Cat! Cat! I've got a hostile! He yelped, then coughed like he meant to say it. Sheriff Dan didn't flinch. Morning, boys. The officers hesitated. They'd trained for chaos, fires, shootouts, criminals, but all they found were two old men with coffee and a rooster with a god complex. Their body cams blinked in the dawn. One officer read from a damp printout, his voice shaking. Complaints of illegal barn expansions, unlicensed livestock, hazardous lawn decor, and, he swallowed, an offensive scarecrow. Before I could ask how a scarecrow could offend anyone, a sedan screeched onto my lane. Out jumped Karen. Heels sharp, sunglasses the size of dinner plates, phone already streaming. Citizens, she shouted, justice arrives! She turned the camera toward me, then stabbed a finger like a knife. This menace threatens our property values with his barn, his rooster, his swing. The porch swing swayed slowly behind me, its pillow stitched with home is where the hay is. Sheriff Dan tipped his hat. Morning to you, ma'am. Karen stalked up the steps, leaving heel prints in my welcome mat. She waved papers at me. Under subsection 12 Bravo of Community Standards, all structures visible from the road must be neutral, tasteful, and authorized by the HOA Aesthetic Board. I am the board. I squinted. That your book club? It's the law. Her smile was tight, metallic. She spun to the officers. Arrest him. Impound his barn. The youngest whispered the word as though it were foreign. Barn? Sheriff Dan stayed still. He blinked slow. The coffee steam rose between us like a shield. Karen rattled on, her voice sharp as glass. The rooster crowed again, fierce, and she recoiled. Noise terrorism, she hissed. Ma'am, the officer asked carefully, do you even live here? I preside, she snapped. By then, neighbors had started to gather, pulled by the sirens. Kids with kites, Mrs. Alvarez with her thermos, the mailman with a dog treat in his pocket, even the cows pressed against the fence, watching. My goat chewed my fern like a witness eating evidence. Karen raised her voice like a prosecutor rehearsing for a mirror. We are the last line of defense against chaos, against scarecrows in Hawaiian shirts, against spoon chimes. The spoons tinkled politely in the wind. Dan raised his mug to them in a toast. I stepped off the porch, boots crunching gravel. My hands were rough and steady. This is a farm, ma'am, not a Pinterest board. She hissed. Non-compliance. You ever plant a sunflower? I asked. They don't ask permission. They just rise. She faltered, eyes darting to her live stream chat. The comments mocked her, favoring the sunflowers. Her jaw clenched. Enough poetry. Officers, execute the arrest. The yard fell silent. Officers looked to Dan. He set down his mug with a soft clink that cut through the air like a trigger pulled. Arrest him for what? He asked, his voice warm but iron beneath. Karen waved her papers wildly. For the barn, the rooster, the aesthetics. Laughter trickled from the fence. Even the rooster crowed at the absurdity. Then came the sound of another engine. Deep, polished, expensive. A black car rolled slow down my lane, tires crunching deliberate, windows tinted, paint shining like oil. The crowd hushed. Even the cows stepped back. Karen's face lit up with relief. Finally, she breathed. The car stopped. Out stepped Cole, slick suit, polished shoes that had never touched mud, sunglasses reflecting my entire farm. He shut the door with precision, every movement rehearsed. Karen nearly bowed. Gentlemen, this is Mr. Cole, HOA legal counsel. He will ensure justice. Groans rippled through the neighbors. Everyone knew Cole. He'd shut down lemonade stands, fined kids for chalk, ordered shutters repainted for being too cheerful. I leaned on my post, studying him. Cole, weren't you the one who fined a dog for wagging too much? A boy raised his hand. That was my dog. Cole ignored us, flipping open a black folder. His voice was cold steel. Section 12, subparagraph 4. No structure shall disrupt architectural harmony. Section 9. Livestock must be board approved. Section 8. Noise must remain at reasonable levels. The rooster crowed louder than ever, wings thrashing, and the crowd howled with laughter. Karen shrieked, "This is not a comedy show. This is law and order." Sheriff Dan stepped forward at last, boots heavy on the dirt. He tilted his head at Cole. Funny thing about your rules. They only matter when they're legal. And your HOA don't stretch out here. This farm's been here longer than your board, longer than Karen's minivan, maybe longer than Cole's haircut. County law trumps your paperwork. Cole's expression never changed. Then we'll see you in court. Karen gasped like it was victory. Yes, court. She spun to the phone camera. We'll drag this chaos before a judge. But Dan only chuckled low. You might not like the judge who gets this case. The tension was a live wire. The neighbors whispered. Karen paced, binder clutched like a weapon. This barn is a danger. These animals are unlicensed. Those scarecrows, tasteless. That rooster, a menace. If you won't act, Sheriff, we will. I call a tribunal. Right here. Right now. The barn became a courthouse in minutes. Hay bales dragged into rows, a tractor as the judge's bench, a broken ladder for witnesses. The crowd poured in, buzzing like spectators at an execution. Karen stood tall on a feed bucket, binder in hand, eyes blazing. Order, she screamed. This tribunal is now in session. She rattled off charges: unapproved barn, unauthorized livestock, offensive scarecrows, excessive rooster crowing. Major Cluck crowed on cue, echoing through the rafters. The crowd laughed like thunder. She called witnesses, but they betrayed her. Mr. Jenkins admitted the rooster saved his cat. Mrs. Alvarez raised her roses like a sword, declaring them too passionate for beige bylaws. The goat leapt onto the hay, chewing Karen's binder. Every word, every laugh tore holes in her authority. Her face flushed crimson. She demanded silence, but the barn was alive, roaring with neighbors, animals, and laughter. Then Dan's voice cut through it, calm but heavy as a gavel. Karen, you're wasting everyone's time. This farm isn't under your HOA. Never was. Her sunglasses slipped down her nose. What do you mean? Dan pulled a folded document from his pocket. He passed it to me. I unfolded it slow, dramatic. The crowd leaned in. This farm never belonged to your HOA, I said. In fact, the land your office sits on belongs to me. Gasps. Laughter. Cheers. The rooster crowed so hard the rafters shook. The goat bleated like a trumpet. Karen's voice cracked. That's impossible. No, Dan said. It's county record. His grandfather leased land to developers, but kept the controlling interest. This man isn't your subject. He's your landlord. The barn erupted. Kids screamed it like a chant. Grandpa owns the HOA. The neighbors clapped. Officers grinned despite themselves. Karen staggered back, her binder spilling papers like a broken deck of cards. I stepped closer, voice low but sharp. Every time you came here waving that binder, you trespassed. Every fine you wrote, null. Every threat, dust. You've been barking at the wrong tree, and now the tree owns you. Dan added, filing false reports, Karen? That's a crime. Her live stream chat exploded with mockery. Her face twisted, pale and broken. She sputtered, this isn't over. I'll appeal. I laughed low, shaking my head. Appeal all you want, but you'll be sending it to me, and rent's due next week. The barn howled with laughter. Officers shook their heads, chuckling. Even the cows mooed like a chorus. Karen turned and stumbled out, her heels sinking in mud, binder flapping useless. The crowd followed her retreat with cheers and jeers. Her live stream captured it all, her fall, her fury, her defeat. I raised my cold mug to the crowd. Well, folks, verdict's in. Common sense wins. Dan shook his head, grinning under his mustache. Next time, warn me before you turn your barn into a courthouse. Next time, I said, I'll charge admission. The rooster crowed one final time, loud and defiant, a victory cry that split the dawn. The barn doors swung open, flooding the place with sunlight. I stood tall in the doorway, mug raised like a toast. And to the shrinking figure of Karen down the lane, I called, next time, knock first. The sheriff and I like our coffee hot.